very good evening to everyone. Welcome to third episode of Minimalist Corporate Lifestyle. I'm Aruna, Head of Employee Benefit at JB Bora, would be host for today. According to various researchers, being sedentary not only has detrimental effect on physical health, but also affects mental health. Working out regularly and being physical active can help lower stress and blood pressure, reduce the risk of stroke, and prevent the onset of diabetes. Our immune system works effectively when it flushes out bacteria from our lungs and airways, increases white blood cell counts, and raises our body temperature. Oh, why am I talking all this? On this healthy note, let me invite our well-known and well-established speakers of the day. Vishal Gondal, founder and CEO of Koki, best known as father of Indian gaming industry. Vishal Gondal sold his first entrepreneurial venture, India Games, to Walt Disney. A health and fitness enthusiast, he runs marathons, treks, and goes ski diving. A notable angel investor, Vishal was listed among the top 50 executives in the mobile content space by UK-based mobile entertainment magazine, alongside notable people like Steve Jobs. His passion for technology, fitness, and gaming led him to his next venture, Koki, which is focused on helping people make a change towards a healthier lifestyle and be their force of good. Currently, he brings his knowledge and love for interviewing people to a whole new platform by hosting a podcast series, Beneath the Force, The Vishal Gondal Show. He has conversations with personalities from various walks of life, providing a sneak peek into their fascinating lives while in his own style. Along with Vishal, I also welcome our panelist, Mr. Venkatraman P. Mr. P. Venkatraman is a Mumbai-based chartered accountant who is successfully exited from two startups which were acquired by US UK companies. He has been a judge and a mentor in Eureka Business Plan competition of IIT Mumbai and also a charter member of TIE Mumbai. He has been a full-time professor in Symbiosis Institute of Business Management, Pune from MBA. He is also an active Freemason in the hobby of ham radio, has held national level positions in the past. As a seasoned runner, he has been running the SCMM half marathons over many years. He underwent an open heart bypass surgery in 2007, but was back on his feet immediately and ran SCMM half marathon in Jan 2008. In fact, with a view to maintain consistent physical fitness in the last several years, he has been running the half marathon distance of 21 kilometers every single calendar month. As of last count, he has run more than 140 half marathons. Since he started running in his new social mission, You Too Can Run, he promotes running for good health. The objective of the mission is to encourage everyone to adopt a healthy lifestyle in general and by running in particular. Now, please note, you can raise the questions again using the chat section and we are there to answer as many questions we can. Now, I would not like to hold the speakers from talking to you. Already have inspired you with their introduction. Over to you, Vishal.
Thanks a lot. Hi, everybody. And really exciting to be here and really exciting to be with Venkat sir. I know Venkat now for quite some time. He's a absolute motivator. If you see him run, while he will say you too can run, actually it is a fact. He's been able to make a lot of senior citizens run, and he always does that. But today, actually, I am here to talk about something very exciting, and I just want to give you a brief overview of what my thoughts are so that we can kind of go into the depths of it. A lot of you guys are in the business of insurance, in business of all the things you are doing, and you're constantly looking at, let me use the word, wealthy people, or companies which are wealthy. And so far, wealth was always considered as a measure of your success. How much money do you have? But the world has changed. In today's world, in the post-COVID world, your biggest currency is not going to be your wealth. It is going to be your health. And I remember that when we used to apply for visas, all these countries used to ask you, give us your bank statement, what properties you own, because they wanted to make sure that you had all the resources. Today, these same consulates will be asking you for your blood report and this report and how immune you are and how many marathons you are running. And I think somewhere this whole thing, when we, this was a old saying that health is wealth, I think it is truly going to translate into it. I had a chat a few weeks back with Rajan Anandan. There's already talks about where he mentioned there's already talks about the health passport coming up. and many countries looking at very closely on how healthy people are going to be treated differently, or immune people or better immunity. Because today we are all bankrupted, or a lot of financial issues are not happening because there is a virus. It's happening because if you largely see, the people who are impacted are people with poor immunity or poor immune system. That's really what is the cause. If you really look at the data, and you can verify this, there are enough public sources that actually COVID has impacted. If you look at from a percentage perspective, even though people talk about 3% or 4% death rate at an average, the reality is that there were so many people who were still uh, who got the virus, but they were asymptomatic. So actually, when you finally do the numbers, you will realize that it is not 3%, but it'll be more like 0.5 to 1%. So actually, it is not that bad. But the problem in this case is it is particularly bad with people with impaired immunity. And when I say impaired immunity, I talk about non-communicable diseases like diabetes, cholesterol, hypertension. And when they talk about comorbidities, it's because these things are impairing your body to fight the virus. So actually, human body is an amazing piece of technology. Whoever built it is a genius. It's God or whoever, or evolution. Our bodies are fully capable of fighting these kind of viruses. We do this every day, every second. I think clearly impaired bodies have a challenge, and again there was a direct link between obesity and a lot of people having impaired health. So while I know we will have vaccines and this thing will go away in the next 12, 18, whatever, 24 months, what I believe is the long term impact of this is going to be very, very striking for each one of us. Just like how 9/11 changed the way airports operated, and airport security is very, very different. And after the attacks of Taj and what happened in some of the five-star hotels in Mumbai, Mumbai, the security to enter a leading hotel in India itself is very, very different. So I believe that post-COVID, of course, while people will want to, wear masks, etc., that is more the physical aspect of showing you are preventing something. But the real prevention is in four areas or five areas you have to develop. One is sleep. Sleep is the foundation of good health, and a lot of us are impaired with sleep. And that's actually also the start of poor mental health. The second is nutrition, what you feed your body. The third is activity, how active you are. The fourth is cognition, that how are you feeding your mind, how active your mind is. And finally, it is about happiness, which is about gratitude, meditation, or having a calmer mind. And that comes with happiness. So if you really look at these five aspects, and during my talk right now, I will talk a little bit about it. And I'll also talk about how these things are going to become very, very part of your daily life, if not. And just like everybody, since you are in the world of insurance, you are in the world which deals with so many external clients. This is one area where you have to practice what you preach. You cannot tell the whole world, be healthy, do this, do that, while you are eating pizza and having Coke. That's not how it has to be. So, when I say you have to be the CEO of your own life, is you have to first take control of yourself, your family, your organization, and you have to set an example. And only then you can inspire, whether it is a neighbor, whether it is a friend, or whether it is another company who you are trying to sell your services. I think you have to be the best example of it. And I think Venkat is once again the best example here. People who have multiple heart attacks say, oh, I can't barely walk. And here he literally takes people after open heart surgeries and trains them to run marathons. So I think it's really in the mind. If your mind can do it and you want to set the example yourself, that's the way to do this. And I'm looking forward to engaging with all of you with questions. And once again, thanks for inviting me, and really happy to be here with Venkat sir. So over to you, Venkat.
Thank you, Vishal. Thank you very much. Vishal, the topic is be the CEO of your own health. And what has been happening is that though the importance of health is very well understood, and to just a little bit of nostalgia. Earlier, when we used to travel abroad, I don't know if you are born then. We used to have yellow fever injection if we went to African countries. We used to have malaria and smallpox.
Malaria is still there, yeah.
So we are kind of coming back to that era of where you went from healthy parts of the world to the unhealthy parts of the world. So we might see something like that come back with this coronavirus. But coming back, a lot of the current paradigm of life is about outsourcing things. Okay, start from very simple things. Earlier, if you go back to life about 40, 50 years back, you had to do all the work in the house yourself. There was no grinder, there was no mixer, there was no delivery boy, there was no vehicle for you to travel. Maybe there was a horse cart or anything. From there, we are slowly coming to a life where you kind of outsource everything. For tea, coffee, there is somebody else. For housekeeping, there is somebody else. There is a driver to drive your vehicle. Even sports, which is supposed to be kind of involving in exercise, is more of a spectator activity. The biggest sporting events are spectator events. Cricket or tennis or motor car or golf are spectator events. So the mindset that is now in the modern era is that I am a spectator, somebody else has to do it. When you say that you have to be the CEO of your own health, you are actually casting that aside. There has to be a breakthrough in the mindset. How does one go about doing that? And what are your points of view on that aspect?
No, I think, my simple submission to each one of you over here is that health and education, specifically these two things, these are not issues of access or knowledge or data. Today every good university is offering its courses for free online. You can no longer complain, I can't get admission in Harvard or Stanford. It's all available for free. Similarly, everybody knows you should not be drinking excessively or smoking or eating too much of junk food. You should be exercising. Everybody knows it. But everybody still goes ahead and do it. It doesn't follow this because they lack the motivation. And since we are talking about Mahabharata and Ramayana on TV again, I want to give you the best example of e-learning. We talk about e-learning. I don't know how many of you remember Eklavya and Dronacharya. He just put a statue of Dronacharya and he was able to become the best archer. So even in the time of Mahabharata and Ramayana, we had thought about distance learning, where the guru was just there as a statue. What you required was your willingness to learn and the motivation and the respect. So today, when you are seeing this webinar, this is nothing. This is all an illusion in your mind. Finally, you could be giving attention to this or putting this on mute because HR has called you and you could be busy cutting vegetables right now. That's the reality. But finally, if you are not motivated, nothing is going to happen. And when I say CEO, it's a metaphor for being in charge, about taking accountability. You cannot be dependent on somebody else to do it for you. For example, we say, oh, my company has to spend on my health. The government needs to spend on my health. The reality is that good health is very easy to build. In fact, Venkat again over here is the best example of intermittent fasting. I do intermittent fasting too, which talks about actually eating less food. In fact, not eating food for a longer amount of time. So it's not expensive. So if you're saying, oh, being healthy is expensive, actually it is not. So the whole excuse which people give that it is expensive, it's not there. In fact, there is enough data now which talked about how a lot of our religions talked about fasting, right? And today it's come back to us in terms of Western science, and it's saying that it's best to not eat for 16 hours a day and just have 2 meals a day, right? And that's a very, very good way of being healthy. Similarly, when we talk about the most simple things, right? I mean, turmeric and haldi, these are not expensive solutions, but we are always in our mind wanting to complicate things, and we don't think simple things are going to work, which is why we want these apps which will calculate every calorie. It doesn't work. Calorie counting is the most stupid thing which has been there. Similarly, people spend thousands and lakhs on joining gyms and all these programs. Nothing works, because once again, it is not about having a gym. It's about having the motivation. And once you decide to take things in your hand, that is really when it starts changing. So the trigger, a lot of people talk about this trigger. Sometimes you get this trigger when you see somebody else, a near person who's sick, or you get this trigger when today it's very common to just see that you wake up and you see, oh, this person who was 35 years old died and stuff like that. We are hearing all these triggers. But if you have to really look at the trigger of all triggers, it is this COVID pandemic. I think this is not a trigger for an individual or a society. I think COVID has given a trigger to the entire world and humanity. I mean, 7 billion people have got a trigger right now that, guys, this is the time to take charge of your health and don't blame anybody else. You could be a billionaire and you could be a poor person. It doesn't matter. The virus will not, discriminate between you in any ways. What is going to determine your end is how much true you were to your health and your family's health, just to extend it, because you can infect other people too. So I think it is a wake-up call. And on this note, I want to also remind people of another wake-up call which we've been getting every time from our scientists, which is around climate change. We keep reading that, oh, the sea is going to rise and glaciers are melting. Guys, this is all true. So I would say that, while we are now going to hopefully pay a lot of attention to the health crisis, I think climate is another thing which is just waiting, a disaster waiting to happen. And that could be at even bigger magnitude of COVID, because, as people have predicted. So I think hopefully the two things I would want as CEOs, all of us, to look after is the health and secondly, the environment. And these two would be the most important things if we have to leave this planet for our future generations.
Very good point, Vishal. Planet and personal health. I make a point about, how there are 5 elements: Panchadhatu, air, water, sunlight, oxygen or gases, and earth, minerals, and then the ether, the soul or the DNA. And how this planet makes it into a plant, and the plant becomes your food, and then you go through your entire life, and again you get burnt and you become ashes, and again go back to the earth.
Venkat is vegan, and he's going to try and make everybody vegan.
No, not at all, not at all. Anyway, so I make this point, and the point is very true. The point is that we as human beings are not very different from the planet. So our health is reflected in the health of the planet, and the ill health of the planet is reflected in our own ill health. So we are both conjoined by a system. The very good point that you make. Coming back, let's say somebody says, yes, I need to be healthy. COVID is a very, very pertinent point you made, that most of the time the death is happening to people who are indicated by comorbidities. I know of a 38-year-old guy who died because of COVID. He was diabetic from 32. Okay, personally known to me. Okay, so the existing comorbidity was there in him. Okay, and I'm sure that there are many of my heart patients who are like 60 plus who may test positive but be immune because they are exercising regularly. So that point is very well taken. Now let's say that somebody gets the bug and somebody says, no, this should not happen to me. I need to get healthy. Okay, what triggers? What are the behavior modification kind of stimulus that happens? Why do you see? I mean, you have a lot of people coming to you, have a huge amount of data. So what makes people change and become healthy?
So I would say, I want to put this on the opposite side, right? Right now, what is it that the behavior you should be doing to be healthy? So like I said, the first behavior is sleep, which is the good behavior. If you are not getting 6 to 8 hours, 6 hours is still less. Let's say 7 to 8 hours of sleep, there is a problem. Similarly, if you are not eating nutritious food which is not coming out of a packet, it is a problem. if you are not having at least 30 minutes of activity every day, that's a problem. Now, let us take an example of who are benefiting from this problem. Who are the people who are trying to benefit from this? And I want to quote you 3 examples here. Let's take the first example. Uh, I'm sure a lot of you are spending a lot of your time seeing Netflix, Amazon Prime, and YouTube. Does anybody out here know who's the biggest competitor of Netflix? You can type here. I can see whoever gets the answer, and don't Google it. Just write the answer if you know the answer. Who is the biggest competitor of Netflix? Are you getting anybody to answer? Hotstar. Okay. Who else? Hotstar, iFlix, Doordarshan, Instagram Live. You're all wrong, my dear friends. Netflix's biggest competitor, as identified by their CEO, is sleep. You Google it. The CEO said that the reason people stop watching Netflix is because they go to sleep. Netflix as a company has created a whole strategy which does not want you to sleep. And they do that by giving you these shows which are in whole 25 episodes. They want you to binge watch. And Netflix and all these OTT platforms are exploiting your lack of sleep and not wanting you to sleep for their profit. So firstly, if you are consuming digital content, please regulate it. And you should know in your mind that the reason Netflix has released 25 episodes together is not because of this, because they don't want me to go anywhere and give that 25 hours of the time here. Previously, if you remember, these used to come every week, 1 hour. So clearly companies like Netflix are exploiting sleep and they don't want you to sleep. So if you are really serious about fixing your sleep, please fix your screen time. Now let's look about food and nutrition. You know who's the biggest company who is affecting this? These are companies like Swiggy and Zomato, all the food apps. They are exploiting your urge to eat junk food. Every day there are deals. Of course, COVID is out, but outside COVID, and now soon after COVID is over, they will say back to office pizza offer, 50% off, 90% off on burger with one pizza and fries and biryani. They are not going to give you healthy food and snacks. They are benefiting from your junk food habit. And we are all falling prey to it. So please be careful. I would say delete these food apps. Only when you want to order from them, order, because they are exploiting and they are trying to exploit your lack of this. And then it comes about movement. Let's look about physical activity. Right now, every time you have a spare time, you open Facebook, you open Instagram, and you are again going on, and you know, TikTok is the new thing. They have designed these algorithms to engage you and take away that time from you. And if you just see, you cannot do this activity while walking. These are all designed activity that your complete attention goes there. Like you can listen to audio podcasts while walking. You can possibly do certain other, like talk on the phone while walking. But have you ever tried to listen or surf Instagram or TikTok while walking? You can't, because they try to take your complete attention away to themselves. So even though they are saying they are free, they are actually, you are the product over here. So if you just take these 3 examples and now start thinking of these companies not as companies who are entertaining you, but who are hampering your sleep, who are hampering your physical activity, and who are hampering uh, your junk food, your nutrition, you will realize where the enemy is. So firstly, you have to understand who you are fighting against. And then once you start regulating these 3 things, just regulate these 3 things first. That is, regulate your social media habits, regulate your ordering habits, and regulate your media watching habits. And any device like this, when I sleep, it is not even in my room. And if it is in your room, it should be in airplane mode. Believe me, there is no urgency. Nothing is stopping. We have all now been working from home. Nothing has stopped. So this whole thing that there is an urgency and the WhatsApp is coming and my boss has sent me and I need to reply that very second, I don't know from where that urgency has come in. So please, disconnect from this technology. I know it's supposed to be connected technology, but this connected technology, you need to disconnect.
Vishal, we resonate so much, across so many things. In the fitness challenge that I did, I bought out the triangle of good health. One apex of the triangle is, of course, exercise. One apex is recovery, which is sleep, and the other is food, good nutrition in your body. And you touched upon all the three in this thing. Let's do a deep dive on one of those apexes, which is sleep, which is the first one. Rightfully mentioned. Your point about Netflix is so well taken. Very correct. There is all these screens the whole day, and we know about this blue light that comes on the screen, hampers melatonin, and therefore your sleep cycle, your circadian rhythm is out for a day. You can't sleep till 12, 1 o'clock. I got team members who go to sleep every day at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, they're rubbing their eyes when they're coming on their Google Meet call, and this is become life. It's a very unhealthy life, a very absolutely unhealthy life. So taking sleep and doing a little bit of a deep dive, what are the kind of habitual changes that you talked about, keeping the phone away, etc. I gave a challenge: no screen after 9 o'clock. Okay, so many people came back and they said no, after 10 o'clock. Okay, so there was negotiation, and we did a jugaad there, and we said 10 o'clock. Okay, so what are those kind of rules to see that you get good sleep? I mean, the bed, the AC, anything that, or what are the practices that you follow for good sleep? That would be a good way to put it up. Yeah.
Again, sleep is, like I said, the foundation. In fact, once again, if you Google it, sleep is the official steroid which sportsmen can take. In fact, today Olympic athletes try and sleep for 14 hours a day and 15 hours a day, because it is now, because they've been banned from taking all of the steroids. So if you can really improve your performance, the one way to do that is sleep. It is not fancy to say I did an overnighter and I didn't sleep. It's actually not fancy at all. In fact, people who work late, I don't think so they're doing anything great. That just proves that they are incompetent in doing their work in the day. Again, I'm not offending anyone, but that's what my belief is. Coming back to sleep, now there are certain scientific things which I can talk about so that you make some sense.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Caffeine is known to stimulate, right? It is not going to help you sleep. So ideally try and avoid after 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. because caffeine is there in your system for 5-6 hours. Coffee or teas during that evening, that is one thing. And I think problem is that we all gulp a lot of coffee and tea. So do it in the morning, avoid it in the evening. That's one very easy part. Secondly, there are again, it has been proven, chamomile tea. There are these 3, 4, 5 kinds of teas. You can choose whichever you like. Try and experiment with a few of them, which makes sense. Thirdly, also there are a lot of essential oils, and I think what works very well is lavender. You can just rub, you can get it, 1 drop of lavender oil on your pillow. So there are a lot of hacks to kind of get to sleep. And finally, I think the biggest problem what people have is anxiety. And once again, there are very, very simple breathing techniques which you can do, which kind of calms your system. And these are all very, very well proven, and you can go through it. But I would say that sleep, it is a little bit of trial and error. You have to do some trial and error and see what works for you. But another very important thing is you need to have a routine. You have to go to bed at a particular time and wake up at a particular time, because if you stop this routine, that's what also creates a problem. Just imagine, why does the birds get up at a particular time every day? Why do you hear them chirp? They don't have alarm clocks, right? So I think getting into a routine to do sleep is also very important. So hacking, so I am again a big believer of the Pareto principle, which is the 20% to get the 80% result. So clearly, a lot of times I tell people is that, you really don't need to do too many changes. For a lot of you people, just 1 or 2 of these changes can get you 80% results. So that is the beauty of some of these things are the 20%, which can get you the 80%. And I'm sure in your business also, you have 20% clients who are getting you 80% revenue. So let's focus on them rather than the 20%, the 80% who are only getting you the 20% additional. So similarly in sleep or exercise, like I said, there is no reason that you need to be exercising 2 hours a day and doing weights 24 hours. If you just do 20 minutes of, there is something called HIIT, which is, basically taking your heart rate up and down. And if you do this in quick successions, your body metabolism boosts. It's like if you have a car which is not starting, you keep giving it You keep giving it the self start and it starts up, right? So it is the same concept which you do to your body, and that is proven to be a lot more effective. So there are a lot of hacks, and that's what, when I say CEOs are, right, you go and you figure out what are the best practices, what other smart people are doing. And that's where I would recommend a book to everybody if you are all into reading or even listening to this. It's a book called Tools of Titans. This is from Tim Ferriss. Again, he's an amazing author. He's written 3 books, but this particular book I like because he studied the habits of top athletes, top CEOs, billionaires, authors, artists. And he said, what are these people doing? Let me figure out what is the common aspect of all these people, and then let's see if others can follow. And what is the one most common aspect of this? One most common between all the major, Venkat, you can guess that.
Yeah. What is it?
Meditation. I know,
okay.
everybody say meditation, but that is what ultimately it is. It is cognition, right? Finally, imagine this whole body, it's all being controlled by your mind, your brain. And meditation is one of those things. And it is very, very underrated, right? People just think that, yeah, closing my eyes, what is it going to do? But actually, this is the, why do you think, the CEO of Twitter comes and spends 20 days in Vipassana, and Steve Jobs was, roaming around Haridwar and Ayodhya or wherever, he was. I'm just saying that there is real stuff in this. And unfortunately, we see a lot of this around us and we become, kind of indifferent, but this thing works. And once again, there are ways to hack it. And the only one solution I want to give all the people out here is this thing called binaural beats. I don't know if you've heard of binaural beats, Venkat.
Yes, I have.
Binaural beats are very amazing, guys. You just go on your favorite music app on YouTube. So binaural beats is this music in different wavelengths. And when you put a headphone and listen to it, it kind of tricks your brain. You listen to 10 minutes of binaural beats. It'll trick your brain into going into a meditative state. Of course, these are not, again, these are the 20% which can get you 80%. I'm not saying this is like the best way to do meditation. But if you really want, you can't meditate and you want to do meditation and you want to start tomorrow, I would say listen to 20 minutes or 10 minutes of binaural beats and do it every day. You have to do this for at least a month. You can't do one thing for like 2 days and say nothing is happening. So it takes time, but there are very simple ways of doing it. It is not complicated.
Very good. So, staying a little bit on sleep before we move to the other topic, some more hacks. What are your views on amber glasses to cut out the blue light? Which gamers, your roots are in that industry. So, that.
Again, it's scientifically proven, blue light impacts sleep, so it is, again, these are very, very amazing hacks which you can do.
Correct. And also set simple things like, today almost every laptop and mobile and tablet has got this digital wellness thing, which most people don't know. And you can set the screen brightness to go into amber mode as soon as sunset comes. So there's a very small thing that people can do within their own phones so that the blue light from the screen is not affecting their melatonin secretion. That is the thing. What about ambient light in the bedroom? Are there any tips, and would you like to share something on that?
No, you need to have darkness, right? I mean, again, there is a very interesting TED talk by Jay Walker, and then he even wrote a book called Why We Sleep, and I think Bill Gates also talked about that book. So he talked about ambient lighting. Even temperature makes a big difference. So there are many parameters. But again, like I said, it's the 80-20 rule. So figure out the 20% which can get you the most. So there are whole things, that 25 things you can do to improve your sleep. Try 2, try 3, try 4, and and then get a device which can measure your sleep. So like at Goki, our devices can measure your sleep. So the question really is that, have you ever measured what kind of sleep you are getting? Of course, these are not medically accurate, because that is when you have sleep apnea and they'll put all those machines on you to measure your sleep. But if you at least know, and that's when I say CEO, you need to have data. You need to have information to act. Only if you have a data point can you improve the data point, right? if you're running a company, you look at sales numbers, you look at all the figures, you look at quarterly projections, and then you plan a business. But when it comes to health, we are just waiting for a disaster to happen, right? And then after you get a heart attack, is people are thinking, oh God, what will I do? Or after you've got diabetes, you're thinking, oh, what do I do? Imagine if you are a CEO of a company who's saying, I don't want to look at anything. I will only look at the company when the company is filing for bankruptcy. That is what is happening. So you are right now, while you're running your companies, you're all looking at data, Excel sheet. But when it comes to your own body, you are saying, let it go to bankruptcy and then I will intervene and figure out what to do. And that's exactly the problem. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people benefiting from your laziness, benefiting from your poor sleeping habits, your junk food. So there is a whole industry who makes so much money, billions out of it. Nobody wants, like Facebook, by the way, already knows people who are depressed, who are suicidal. Facebook algorithms. But they're not telling you that, hey, stop using Facebook, go see a doctor. Or, they are not trying to show you calming videos. They are showing you, see how much fun Venkat is having right now while he's running his marathon and, eating all the amazing food. Because they benefit by clicking on ads. So they are not interested in your well-being, which is why as a company, if you say your clients that, listen, I am on your side, I am interested in your well-being, which is one of the reasons why at Goki, we are partnering with insurance companies in a very big way, because currently, unfortunately, the healthcare system, however amazing it is, it's actually a sick care system. It is not designed to keep you healthy. It is designed to treat the sick. So it is not going to ever focus on prevention or making you healthy. Doctor is saying you have a problem, here is a pill, go away. And now they're assuming that people will be taking care of it. But think about an insurance company who's saying, I have so many members. What if a huge percentage of them have comorbidities? And now with COVID, it's a sitting time bomb. So many people can get sick. So I think now is a time for insurance companies, for employers, for companies like yourself, who are in the business of health risk, to get more proactive, because people will say, you know what, Facebook is not interested in keeping me healthy, neither is Instagram, neither is Zomato. Who is responsible for doing that? And they will start aligning with you, because you are here, just like they were wealth managers who were looking at your wealth and saying, I'm going to help you make your wealth better and grow. This is going to be a era of health managers, and that's the position which at least we at Goki are trying to work on, and we are happy to partner with allies, right? This is a question of partnering together with people with the same goal.
Fantastic point, Vishal. Just to further your thoughts, it is said that the current COVID crisis is actually a penalty on the healthy and rewarding the unhealthy, because the lockdown is put so that the contagion doesn't spread, and the at risk, and the point that you made when you started, is only for people who have existing comorbidities. So the healthy people are being protected, and the economic ill health of the healthy, who could actually be going out there not having any problems and doing their business and doing whatever they were doing in life. So even insurance is like that, because it's all a question about actual science, spreading a risk, and doing all the stuff. And if you don't have the measurements, if you don't have the data, then how do you manage?
Okay. So insurance is going to get completely disrupted, right? Insurance is a business which is going to completely change in the next 5 years. And I'll tell you why. Insurance was depending on this actuarial science. Wo Baba Azam ke zamane ka data was there on some table, and some people said that, oh, this is how people are going to work. Today, Goki can give you live blood pressure, live heart rate. And within the next 5 years, 3 years, between your phone, your wearable, your watch, all health parameters are going to be available live on a phone for you, your health parameters. So now it's not about actuarial science. It is about real prediction of looking at your data, and I can tell you exactly what is your risk, how soon you're going to die, or how soon you're going to get infected. Or so that is where the technology is going. And insurance companies who are going to rely on old archaic models are not going to survive. So insurance companies will have to become dynamic data companies who will say, I am going to be the best at analyzing this data and tell you what to do. And you know what? If you are a smart insurance company, you can actually build a book of all these healthy people. And all the unhealthy people, if they are not willing to invest in their health, if they want to eat junk food, if they want to eat and drink and smoke, then somebody else can take care of their expenses, right? Because finally people have a choice to make when they smoke, for example, right? Even after giving so many warnings on packs and pictures, if people still smoke, they already pay a higher premium, so they know that they are at higher risk. Similarly, why is this same thing not applicable to lifestyle in general? Why are people who are healthier walking paying the same premium? And that's exactly what we announced a product with Bajaj Allianz just a couple of weeks back, where we said your copay is completely dynamic on how healthy you are. So if you are going to be exercising, etc., your copay is zero. You can literally get insurance for free. And people who are not going to be doing it are going to pay. So finally, it is going to become the survival of the fittest. And I think while countries can give it to the below poverty line, people who don't have the resources, but people who do have the resources have the responsibility of making the right choices. You can't be drinking and smoking and making the wrong choices and then blaming the government and the company and the society to do this.
I agree with you. It is very much similar to portfolio management. As an insurance company, assuming the risk, you are assuming the risk of the portfolio of assets that you cover. And if you've got very risky assets, then the risk of the portfolio is that much higher. And putting something like a health measurement parameter or a filter or a dimension, whatever you want to call it, and evaluating the risk of your portfolio of risk that you have assumed does make it more intelligent and rewards the people who are doing good and punishes those who deserve to be punished, if I may say so.
I'm not going to tell you the name of the company because these are a lot of insurance people here. I met an insurance CEO and asked him the same thing. I said, your portfolio is there. They are all healthy. I asked him, what are you doing to make sure your customers are healthy? And you know what was his answer? Every month, we have a prasad to Siddhi Vinayak, to Tirupati, to all the other gods. He listed 5 temples that he said that from their insurance company, every month they go and give all the temples and all these things. So the point was that the only answer is it's Ram Bharose as far as the insurance company is technical. And right now in COVID time, all the temples, everything is shut, right? So finally, you have to trust in data. And data is what is going to be the future of health. There is going to be so much data. We are predicting that each person will generate 1 terabyte of health data a year, minimum 1 terabyte. If imagine I had to record every heartbeat of yours, all your parameters every day for 365 days. And imagine a human, there are so many variables, blood pressure, this, that, temperature, HDL, LDL ratios, HbA1c, so many variables, right? So that is the kind of data. And now the future of health and medicine will also be there. Medicine will no longer be about giving one medicine, trying it on 50 people and giving it to others. It will be based on your data set. I would be able to predict what medicine you want. And you know what? In most of these cases, food is the best medicine. If you are able to eat the right food, you don't need medicine because that is medicine.
I agree with you. To take another analogy, Cambridge Analytica, and how they manipulated political outcomes because of the data that they had from the social network. So something very similar, but in the health space, can really improve the dynamics, the health not only of the insurance who assume the risk, but also of the insured, because you will kind of bring about the desirable practices that are necessary for their own health. That's a very good point that you make. In this increasingly data-driven world, how does one capture food? Because consumption of food, there are many metrics that are activity-driven, which your wearables can capture. What are the challenges? Because you said food is very, one of the key things. Food is medicine. You talked about, intermittent fasting. There's a Sanskrit saying that says Lagnam Parama also, which means fasting is the best medicine. So, around food. So what are we seeing in terms of capturing food data, food consumed data in terms of technology?
So, if I give you a cup of tea, each one of you, I give each one of you a cup of tea. and you're all having it, you will all have that cup of tea.
Hmm.
But I make you aware that
Hmm.
in one of this cup of tea, there is a fly,
Hmm.
a fly. Each one of you are now aware, and you are now thinking that, oh God, is the fly in my cup? And you are suddenly more careful. First, you will try and spot the fly, and you'll be more careful to drink that cup of tea just by telling you that there could be a fly in one of these cups of tea. Similarly, the act of awareness, if you are aware, things start working. If you suddenly start being aware of what you are eating, that is the first step of moderation. Just be aware, and just make a mental note of what you are eating. Use smaller plates, for example. Suddenly you will realize that, oh shit, because my plate was so big, I could put so much food and it looked like it was less, because you are aware. The minute you reduce the quantity of your plates, you will. So awareness is something very important, and once you are aware, things changes. And the second thing is, and this is again, I know we have less time, but I want to just quickly go through something which I very, very work dearly with, which is willpower. So we all talk about, I can't diet, I don't have willpower, I can't do this, I can't do that. So willpower is a muscle. It can be exercised, it can be improved, and you can make your willpower very, very strong. And how do you do that? The way to do that is by reducing the number of decisions you have to take. So let me give you an example. Every time, so a brain is like a computer, think about it that way. If you are processing every time thousands of decisions, you are overloading the CPU. And then when you really want to take a decision, the CPU is already overloaded, right? So how do you reduce the decision? So let me give you a simple example. In my case, I've been intermittent fasting, so I don't have breakfast. What I do is I have something called bulletproof coffee for years now. It's coffee with butter and ghee. Of course, don't ask me, it's very tasty. I don't know if Venkat has tried it, but that's my favorite drink. So I don't have to decide what food I'm having. I know that's my food. Similarly, I only wear red t-shirt, red shoes. Uh, I don't have any other clothes. I don't have to decide what clothes to wear. Similarly, I already know to a large extent what I'm going to eat in the whole week. It's already planned. I don't have to decide or tell somebody that today I want this, for tomorrow I want that. So if you just stop reducing the number of decisions, you will see that suddenly you have higher willpower for taking other decisions. And again, like I said, willpower is a muscle. The point here is that don't try and do 20 things, 20 changes at the same time. Like I told you about sleep. So you can't say, okay, from tonight I'm going to get better sleep, I'm also going to diet, and I'm also going to do intermittent fasting. It is a recipe for disaster. So take 1 or 2 points at a time, and then do it for 20, 30 days. And there's our human brain is so amazing. So what happens is, when you have to take effort, that takes willpower. Today, do you need to take effort to brush your teeth? No, because it has become a habit. It doesn't take effort for you to do it. For a kid, it takes time, it's effort, which is why for making a kid a brush your teeth, it takes willpower. And they don't want to, their willingness is not there. So once you reach a point that you don't need effort to do something, that has become a habit, and that no longer depletes your willpower. Then you can do something else which utilizes that willpower. So similarly, a lot of times you just come to office, or you are just trying to do Zoom, and you are so stressed because you are worried about what clothes to wear and what to do. And you are making so many decisions. Just ask yourself that since you wake up to 10 a.m., how many decisions do you take? Decisions means even picking something from here to there is a decision. When you pick up something, that's a decision. And you have to make a choice. If you have 4 newspapers coming in your house, absolute disaster, because you are now thinking which newspaper to read. Best don't have newspapers, but even if you're having, just have one, because that is also depleting your willpower. And once you have utilized and channelized your willpower and kind of use it to do 2 things. And the best thing is, once you use it, you will see your willpower is increased. So now you can do something else. Now
Okay.
I can do 6 minutes of headstand unassisted. unassisted. And handstand, I can do 2 minutes. Assisted, and I'm going to go to unassisted very soon. So, and I did this over 6 months. I just did only these two things. I stopped. I did not even run the marathon this year, by the way.
Okay.
Because my focus was I'm only going to do two things: headstand and handstand.
Okay. Wow, fantastic. We the discussion is so interesting that time just flew. Lots of questions are piled up. Before I take on the questions, I want one small this from you. Goki is making amazing strides, and not like a sales pitch, but we are excited to know all the nice things that you're doing. So high level, 5 things, wow factors, what Goki is doing.
So Goki is basically taken all the stuff I have learned from my gaming experience, my background in behavior design, my background in making this fun. And what we have done is think of Goki like a game of life. It is exactly what Facebook does, but it does for your benefit. So we use social media, we have gaming, we have tracking, we have content, we have OTT. So what we have done is a lot of these tools which are used for evil purposes. I want to call them evil because that's what they are. And once again, you should Google this guy, Tristan Harris. He has a whole talk about how a lot of these tech companies are using this technology for evil. We are trying to use the same tools for good. So we are saying, how can we make our technology to motivate you to achieve your goal, not my goal of clicking on an ad or selling you a product. So that's the crux of Goki. We have a complete digital health ecosystem. There are coaches, doctors, wearables, but at the core, what Goki does is guides, motivates, and empowers people. The best joke I tell people is, and I call it a joke because people laugh at it, and I believe, and when I tell you, I'm telling you very seriously that we are going to be the world's biggest healthcare company, and I don't have a single doctor in my management team. Because we are not delivering medicine, we are delivering motivation, because that is the solution to all your problems.
I like to, I was on a Thai seminar on healthcare, and everybody was from drug company, pharma company, apps that will do this and do that. And I said, I'm different from all y'all. I'm pre-healthcare. so my job is to see that I don't bring customers to you.
Oh, they are sick care. They are sick care. That's the sick care.
Sick care, exactly. I call myself pre-healthcare. Anyway, so let's take some questions. There is a question from Pooja, and I'm going a little bit selectively on this. That there are 7 to 8 hours sleep is necessary, but there are yoga practices which are done regularly bring down the sleep and the food quota. It is harmful for us. So yogic practices that reduce the demand of sleep and demand of food. What are your views?
Yogic practices reduce the demand for sleep and food. Is it harmful for us? So again, yogic practices are, it's like an ocean, right? I don't know which specific yogic practice you're talking about, but reduction of food is good. We are telling you it's better to do intermittent fasting. So actually, reduction of food is very good. It is not bad at all. Sleep, again, like I don't know what specific asana. For example, it is said that you should not do bhastrika in the evening because it increases. So, there is this whole concept of heat generating exercises and cooling exercises. So there are certain yoga asanas you're not supposed to do in the evening. And there are certain you're not supposed to do in the morning. Like Surya Namaskar, you should not be doing it. Surya Namaskar, it is designed to do in the morning. That's why it is Surya Namaskar. If you're doing Surya Namaskar at 10 in the night, clearly it is not going to be helping in your sleep. So, but yoga also promotes sleep. I don't know. In fact, Yog Nidra is actually the most popular, again, way to sleep. So you Google Yog Nidra if you're interested in yoga and sleeping.
Very good.
And by the way, I just want to give you a disclaimer. I am not a scientist. I am not a yoga. I am a TYBCom fail. So just don't take any advice.
Yeah, same thing. I also have to often start because I talk all the scientific jargon. Many people have saved my name as Dr. Venkatraman. So sometimes a stranger calls me up and says, "Doctor, can I talk to you?" So first thing I say is, "I'm a chartered accountant. I'm not a doctor." Anyway.
And I am a gamer.
Huh?
I am a gamer. Yeah.
Another question. Being proactive is opposed to being reactive is critical given the time that we are living in. So yes, I think that being a CEO means being proactive, having a sense of ownership over your this. There's a question about insurance and about why it needs to be dynamic. will COVID-19 really impact on people's behaviors in respect of their habits? So, for example, I mean, to just elongate this question, amplify it, will people give up smoking? Will people give up drinking? Will people really take up exercises? How much of an influence will it have, or is it like a typical corporate training? After 1 or 2 weeks, it's back to the normal.
So clearly there is a percentage of people who are not going to change their behavior, right?
Correct.
There is a percentage of people. And that is exactly what my pitch to insurance companies is, right? That now, do you want those people to be your customers, or do you want those 20% people who are going to make this change and who are going to make their health seriously to be your customers? If you had a choice, who would you want to be as your customer or as your employee? If you are an organization, because I'm not trying to discriminate, but all I'm saying is, if you are an organization of people, would you rather have the 20% people who are proactive and want to be healthy versus the 80% who are going to always crib and cry and say, what is this? Why are they making me do exercise and attend all these stupid, Zoom sessions when I can just be at home?
Okay. There is this last question that we will take. And it's that many of them are repetitive. Some of them are not really for this forum. People say that we should eat something every 4 hours, but Vishal says it is better not to eat anything for 16 hours.
By the way, it's not Vishal who's saying this, is exactly what I'm saying, right? This is intermittent fasting. This is the science of fasting, and they say there are different ways, 16/8, there are different formats. This is not me saying. Similarly, there are a lot of people who says, 4 hours, and it has worked for people. So once again, like I said, right, you have to be a little bit of what I call a self-experimenter. See what works for you. There is no one size fits all. For some people, 4 hours may work. For some people, 16 hours may work. For some people, nothing will work because they have an excuse for everything, right? Like I said, remember Eklavya. He could have said, I am poor, how will I learn archery, right? I mean, Dronacharya is not even here to teach me. But he just put a statue of Dronacharya and he could learn, right? He could have come with all possible excuses of not being able to do it. So again, 6 hours, 14 hours, 12 hours, 11 hours, these are all excuses which we all make ourselves. That, Vishal said 4, but Venkat said 16. So I will not do either 4 or 16 because, this is wrong. I want data to be proven, right? So yeah, you can wait for that. But as a CEO, you take risk. That is the last point which I want to take, that you have to take.
Before we hand it over back to Aruna, one for the road. One last question for the road. And this is really about alcohol. Okay. The question is the alcohol and its effect on the immune system.
You have to try it. I don't know. I mean, again, like I said, right, there is nothing which is bad for you. Everything in moderation is good. Okay. Alcohol is good. Even there is a whole debate on cannabis and all that, right? So the bottom line is that our bodies are amazing. It can take abuse to some level. It is just that if you over abuse it, it's a problem. That's exactly like a company, right? In a company, you can have some fat, excess employees who are not working, etc. You can indulge, as a company, you can do some discretionary expenses. But if your company is all about people only partying and not working, eventually the company will fail. That's exactly what your body is. Alcohol is not a food group. Let's understand that. Food group is protein, carbohydrate, fat, so and fiber. So you have to follow that proportion. So alcohol is not into that group. So if you're having it, it's great, but have it in moderation.
Thank you, Vishal. Very interesting session. And sorry, there are more questions, but I had to filter some of them to keep it interesting, and I couldn't answer any insurance questions.
So the only hack I can give you, if you want me to answer your question, you can tweet me. I'm on Twitter at Vishal Gopal, and I answer tweets faster than I answer even my WhatsApp or my phone.
So next time you're on a mobile, I know what you're doing. Answering tweets. Okay, over to you, Aruna. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And it was really exciting to have both of you on this panel. Thank you, Vishal. Thank you, Venkat, sir, for moderating this. It was really wonderful to have you both. On this note, I want to bring Rohit Boda, our Managing Director, to say a word of thanks. And again, I will circle back to you for the closing comments.
Hi, Aruna. Am I audible?
Very much, Rohit. Welcome aboard.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Good evening,
Hi.
Mr. Vishal, Mr. Venkat.
Yes.
Good evening to our friends in India, and good morning and good afternoon to all our participants from across the globe. It's a bright sunny evening here in Mumbai with clear skies, temperatures soaring, and of course, the topic of coronavirus is always on the rise. On behalf of JB Boda and the audience, I thank Mr. Vishal, the speaker of the day, for all the valuable information he has shared with us on wellness, especially the 5 components mentioned in the start of his session. In fact, one of the rules that I followed during my transformation journey was stopping to eat all the white food that I know around, and it did miracles for me. Just to add, I also extend thanks to our senior panelist, Mr. Venkat, for his involvement in today's event. We were more than excited to learn from the experts on how you are the CEO of your own health. We are humbled to see such a great response, and personally, being an avid fitness enthusiast, today's session was of my personal interest. We all know the importance of a healthy lifestyle today, owing to the unhealthy lifestyles we live in, and hence an initiative to deliver a session like the one today. Thank you for all the encouragement, and we would indeed facilitate more such interactive sessions in the future. Well, the next one to follow is on 6th May, that is tomorrow, where the session gives insight on managing talent in the post-COVID world by Dr. Shibani Belwalter. I once again extend my thanks to all the speakers and participants for taking out time and attending this webinar. It has been a great pleasure. Thank you very much, and namaste. Over to you, Aruna.
Thank you, Rohit. Thank you once again, Venkat sir. Thank you once again, Vishal. But I want a closing comments from both of you. One
Vishal, you.
So my addition over here is the one comes from the era of running into the digital space, and Venkat sir, one who runs outside in the world, experiencing the beauty of the nature. So what is your take from each of you?
Vishal, you first.
So like I said, guys, at this moment, one of the things which we all need to really focus on is the climate. My closing comments to people are, while this whole session was around health, health is important, but if there is no planet, there is nothing, right? I mean, we may be very healthy, but if this whole place is filled with seawater, there's nothing we can do. So I would say that we need to equally focus on the planet and make sure that we leave it a better place for our future generations.
My take would be, keeping in the theme of this entire series, is to be minimalistic in everything that you do. Vishal gave a very good example of being minimalistic in decision making. Newspapers, clothes, food, etc. That principle needs to extend. One of the things that everybody has been saying in every webinar that I've attended is that no regret, cost cutting, no regret decisions. So you need to take that no regret decisions even when it comes to your own health. So that is what I would say.
Well said. Well said. On this note, thank you once again. Thank you all the audience, and see you tomorrow. Good evening. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.